Down and bop it with my nose, but it's good to be here. You can open up your Bibles. I'll be a minute before I get there, but you can turn back over to 1 Kings 17 and we'll preach on the widow of Zarephath. If you're having deja vu, that is what we preached on this morning. But I have a few more points. If I can find my notes, there they are. We're going to bring out some more things about this woman. I believe last time I was here I preached on Simeon, both morning and evening, and today I'm going to preach on the widow of Zarephath, both morning and evening. I like trying to draw out things with these, we call them characters of the Bible, but sometimes we forget that they're real life human beings. But before I get in there, into all this, I would like to remind you, if you'd like our prayer letter emailed to you or mailed to you, you can get my email address or my phone number. I'd be more than happy to send you one personally or through email about charity mission. If you did miss it, we do have the women's home up and running. We have one lady in there right now. We're going to get another one this week. I do want to thank you all for the food and clothes that you all donated. And I looked through everything. We are going to be able to use all of it. And I like that you all donate things that are still usable. If it expired 10 years ago, it's hard. We can feed it to somebody, but it's not really right. But we do thank you for that. And things at the church are going well, and we're seeing the Lord move. And I'm working right now, just so you know. I'm working. I prayed for a while on work. If God wanted me to work, I took 5 months. I saved up in the spring from January until May, and then I graduated in May, and I quit my job in May, and I went full time for about 5 months. And I got to go to a youth camp down in Alabama. I got to go to a camp meeting down in Georgia and present the work, and I got to go up to Michigan and present the work, to Kentucky and present the work at a meeting, to about 6 or 7 different meetings, and it got to the point where the money I saved up was running out. Believe it or not. And I got to the point where I said, Lord, if you want me to work, I'll work. If you don't want me to work, and you want me just to rely on love offerings or support, I'll do that. But Lord, you know that I have my student loans. I got to start paying on them in January. And I said, Lord, if the money don't come in, I'm going to go to jail. I don't know if it's a penalty. I don't think they throw you to jail for it. But I said, Lord, the money's come in. I prayed on it. The money kept getting lower and lower, and I kept praying on it. And the meetings didn't come in. The support didn't come in. He said, Aaron, go get a job. I said, all right, I'll go get a job. So I'm working part-time, again, with children with autism. I work about 15 hours a week, about 15 to 20 hours a week. I'm an in-home behavior therapist. I work with kids with autism on their social skills, behavioral skills, and also on their schoolwork. 2 of the kids I'm working with, they're autistic. They're pretty intelligent. They go to private school, and they're both pretty intelligent. But that's what I'm doing right now, and I am saving up. Just so you all know, the big news, my fiance that you were told about at your meeting was not actually my fiance at that point. She is now. My dad kind of jumped the gun on me, and I should have known better than confiding a secret in him. But he kind of jumped the gun and told everybody she's my fiance, and now she is my fiance. I asked her to marry me in believe it or not, in a hospital. Real long story short, I kept putting off asking her to marry. I said, I'll do it this week, and this week came, and I didn't do it, and I'll do it this week, and it didn't come. I was going to do it, the next week, obviously, and I got a call in the morning. It was snowing out. There was a frost, and I was taking a man to work, Brent, to work, and it was about 6 in the morning, and I'm out there cleaning frost off my car, and it's sleeting snow, and I'm cleaning the frost off, and I hear behind me, I just hear this, I hear, oh, and I turn around, and Brent slid down all 4 of the steps, the concrete steps. And I take him off to work, and he's got bruises, and he had a rough morning. Tim Hortons messed up his bagel, they messed up his coffee, we got stuck behind the train. He had a rough morning, and I still had my pajamas on underneath of my jeans and my shirt. I didn't shower or nothing. I still got, the crust from all my slobber on the side of my face. I was going to go back and shower after I got back from taking him to work. And after taking him to work, I texted the next person I thought of was Pastor Joe. I texted him and said, make sure you don't slip coming off your steps. Because I know Pastor Joe, I know he's not going to put salt out. He's going to say, I don't need to do it. And I just seen him going down the steps. Luckily, I did text him. He looked out for it, didn't slip. But I got a call on the way back from Grace saying, honey, they're taking me to the hospital. It was Thursday morning, and she said I slid down my steps. She has 5 concrete steps. She slid down all of them. And I'm not going to say anything on that. I tell her to walk slowly outside and watch out for ice, but she knows better. Anyways, and she gave me that call, and I felt bad for her because on that day she was getting her license to be an STNA. She don't take care of her grandmother. And she'd been working for 2 weeks going to this class, and we'd been working on getting money for it. She's all excited about it. She's in her little blue outfit, her little skirt and everything, and she misses that class, and I felt bad for her. I go into the hospital room, and she's sitting there, and she's all bummed out. And I've always teased her that she's very sickly. And I tell her, we're probably going to have to get a membership at a hospital. We can get coffee discounted and things like that. And I tease her. And I thought we might as well make a good memory at the hospital, so I just went ahead and asked her to marry me there.
Amen.
And I felt bad when I opened up the ring box because they thought I was joking. And her mom, without looking down the ring box, goes, "There's nothing even in there." And I was thinking, oh, it's so small she can't see it. But she swears that she didn't look, so that's why she said that. But anyways, yes, we're engaged. We don't have a date set, but we will definitely tell you all about it. You're more welcome to come. And so that's going on. Another thing I wrote down here, the love offering, just so you know, I use a love offering for myself. I tithe off of it, but I also always take a small portion of it and do something for the men. So I usually do, this Saturday we'll probably do a Christian video, chalk talk or something. On Friday or Saturday night, we'll play ping pong, and I'll get root beer and make floats and have popcorn and food and different things like that. So I was letting you know that's where your money does go if you do give me a love offering. I also need to apologize about a statement I made earlier this morning about Coca-Cola. I was told that Coca-Cola is bad for you. I was encouraged to drink Pepsi products. So my apologies there. But I already went through all that. I guess we get to the preaching. I'm not actually going to read the portion of Scripture tonight because I believe we all read it before. I'm going to recap what went over this morning and then get into preaching. I will tell you this quick story before I begin. I was talking to my mom a little about this morning, but we have brethren. We have brethren, and they're black brethren, and they have church a little bit different than what we do. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I teach their own, and you can learn a lot of things from some black preachers. And this one pastor of a church, he had an evangelist in, and the evangelist came and sat up on stage. And before he got up, the pastor said, Elder Scott, I believe his name was. He said, Elder Scott. They have elders and bishops and reverends. He said, Elder Scott, he said, why don't you come up and give us a word? This little old frail deacon comes up, and of course he had the 6 or 7 buttons, all the way buttoned up, and his tailcoat came down to here, and he gets up, and the little scrawny man, he gets up, and he closes his eyes and goes, he goes, yes! Yeah. And then the whole congregation all goes, yes! Yeah. And the man closes his eye, and he goes, yes! Like that, and the whole congregation goes, yes! He looks up a third time and he goes, yes! Like that, and the congregation all calls back to him, yes! And that old deacon, he goes, Lord, you have our answer. Now just tell us what you want us to do. Amen. And I like to say, if you can come into a service and say, Lord, my answer is yes, now tell me what you want me to do, I think you get a lot more out of the service. Amen. So that's what we want to do tonight. Is that, Lord, whatever you want us to do, we'll do. Amen. If you're down with it, I'm down with it. Just keep it in English or have someone translate it for us or whatever you want to do. In Spanish, yeah. But anyways, we went over this morning the widow of Zarephath, and we read portion 8 through 23, and we've mentioned some things about her. We mentioned about how she's living in a heathen country. We talked about how there's a drought in the land. We talked about how God's people are in apostasy. And you can make the application to America. I know I've given you some statistics before. And in Franklinton, in the county that we're from, I've never researched it here in Hillsboro. But I know in Franklinton, in 2016 was the last time they did the study, there were around 314 overdoses of opiates. That's just opiates. In 1 year, there in Franklinton, in that one community, that's nearly one a day. We're living in a wicked generation, a wicked country. We're living in a heathen country. I was reading a statistic, there were over 700,000 sexual assaults in 1 year in college campuses that had alcohol involved. That doesn't count the ones without alcohol. Keep in mind, our state gets tax money off of alcohol. And yet I tell people down there in the bottom, I say, but yet they tell you that they care about you. Yeah. They really care about the impoverished. I said, right next door to us, we got this Muslim who owns a And no offense to anybody in here if you're once Muslim, but we have a man next at the door who he gets tax breaks for opening up a convenience store. Right. He gets to sell alcohol. Yeah. Our government gives him tax breaks to sell alcohol in an oppressed community where drugs abound, where violence abounds. Yeah. That's a heathen country. Yeah. I could go through more, but honestly, they're kind of depressing. I'm not going to get the rest of them. But we're in a heathen country. We're in a heathen land. There's a drought in the land. You don't see the revivals of the 40s and 50s. You just don't see it. And some people have different opinions on them. Some of it was a revival. Some of it was just promotion. Some of it was just look at how many people we dumped underwater today. That's all it was. And it was to see who could raise the biggest church in the quickest amount of time and the shortest amount of time. And the other thing I'll say about that is this. I don't mean any disrespect to it, but where are all those converts? Yeah. Where are all the converts from the 70s and 80s? I don't see where they all went. I'm not saying that all wasn't real, but I'm saying whenever people talk about the old days, the old path has always been martyrdom for Christians. The old path has always been a remnant of people, a small group of believers. And I'm worried that the heroes, and they were heroes, what we call heroes in the 60s and 70s and 80s, they got it to where it was how many people you run on Sunday morning and Sunday night and Wednesday night. Right. Instead of making it an inward thing where you have joy and peace of the Holy Ghost and assurance and confidence, and you have your own family under control, and you have your own relationships, your own marriage, and your own life under control, it was more of, you're saved, now go win them back to the Lord. Well, you didn't teach them anything about pride or envy or lust. You didn't teach them anything about the fruit of the Holy Spirit. You didn't teach them anything. You taught them about soul winning, soul winning, soul winning. So whenever we talk about a drought in the land, the old past are saints of God praying, fasting, and clinging to God's Word despite how the world is going or God's people are doing. And as this woman, this widow, she did right even though there's a drought in the land. She did right even though the people are in apostasy. 2 Timothy 3, the references on it, the Laodicea, whatever you want to bring out about that. But God's people are in apostasy. You say, Aaron, I don't believe people can be saved and listen to Christian rock. I do. Aaron, I don't believe people can be saved and go to a modern church, but they don't believe the King James Bible is the Word of God. I do. I believe you can be saved and do those things. I know people that have gotten out of it and came to a conservative, Bible-believing Baptist church. I know people that have went from a Bible-believing Baptist church out into a modern church. That's what apostasy is. It's having the truth and going away from it. Yeah. I don't mean that this is notes, but I believe it's in Scofield's notes. They put apostasy down with the way the world goes. The apostasy in 2 Timothy chapter 3 isn't the world, it's the church, it's believers. Yeah. Going away from the word of truth. So we're in times of apostasy. We talked about how she was busy working. She obeyed. She has more to offer than what she realized. Busy working. Find the good, acceptable, and perfect will of your life, of God's will for your life, and live it. She obeyed. The Bible tells you over in Hebrews, I believe it is, that Christ learned obedience by the things which He suffered. Christ had to learn some things, and He learned obedience by the things which He suffered. The Marines, they make a man obey. They make a man listen. She had more to offer than what she realized. She said, I don't have anything but some oil, some meal, and 2 sticks. She had more than what she thought she did. And a lot of times we have a lot in our arsenal, we just don't use it. Yeah. We don't know what all we know. I bet you this, I bet you some of you know a lot more Scripture than what you think you know. I bet you a lot of you are much better at talking to people than what you think you are. Yeah. I bet you are. But a lot of times we don't put into practice things that we have in God, things that God gives us. And something else I want to point out about this woman is in verses 10 through 12, she begins to doubt God's will. Look what she says. So he arose and went to Zarephath, and when he came to the gate of the city, behold, a widow woman was there gathering of sticks. And he called to her and said, Fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel that I may drink. And as she was going to fetch it, she didn't say anything, she just went to go do it. He called to her and said, Bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thine hand. And she said, As the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal and a barrel and a little oil of cruse. And behold, I'm gathering 2 sticks that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die. You notice how there's a type of attitude change there? You ever pick up on that? At first he says, go get the water, and I'm assuming that there was an abundance of water, at least enough where she didn't worry too much about it. She just went and did it. She got up and went to go do it. And then while she's on her way to go get that water, he says, hey, and fetch me some bread with it. And she turns around, and you can kind of see her getting, I don't want to say snippy, but you can kind of see her being like, what are you talking about? I don't have a cake to give you. I only have a little bit of meal. I'll give you this water, but you're asking too much of me to give you the bread. She says, I want to go and die. She says, me and my son are going to go eat, make it, and then die. It's kind of she's saying, you're asking too much of me now. That's too much. I'm going to die. You're asking. Haven't I already given you enough already? It would be something that you could say. She could have said to Elijah, haven't I already given you enough? I've given you water. Do you really need the bread? Do you really need my meal, my last meal too? Have you ever said that to the Lord? Say, haven't I given you enough? Haven't you had enough yet? The Lord ever put something on your heart and you say, Lord, haven't you already put me through enough? Haven't I already given enough to you? I've already given up to you my Sunday morning, Sunday night. Now I have to change my summer schedule so I can be faithful at the tent meeting. You know, for some people, it's a big deal. God asks that, though, of you after you've been growing in faith and maybe you've been coming to church for years and years and different meetings are put on, or God, you say, Lord, I've been tithing to you and giving to you, and now you want me to give more to missions? You want me to give more to the church? Lord, I've been passing out tracts, and now you want me to go soul winning on Thursday nights? The Lord does that to people. You know, the Lord still takes things out of people's lives no matter how old you get. I'll tell you this, He always replaces them with something else, though. But He doesn't quit asking. Your life, a relationship is give and take. And that's what it is with the Lord. You ever said, God, I've served you all these years now, and now you want my years of retirement? You know, there's a lot of people that let their work life relate to their Christian life. And whenever they're done with work and their body's not able to work anymore and they collect their retirement, they say the same thing at church. Well, you know, I'm done now. I can't teach anything anymore. I'm on retirement. You know, Ron Rouse down at Carthage, Tennessee, Cornerstone Baptist Church. He has a missionary in there that surrendered to the field at age 68, I believe. He said, Ron, he said, Lord's laying on my heart to be a missionary, and they support him. He's off on the mission field. He came back after a trip and said, I want to die there. He said, I want to finish out my years there. I'm worn out from working all week. I'm tithing, I'm giving, and you want me to help out brother so-and-so? I'm trying to give you real life practical things. You ever think of this widow woman whenever she was making the meal for this man, for this prophet? You don't think she got kind of mad at him? I don't know about you, but I've seen women in the kitchen, and it's work. I couldn't do it. I get hot, and I drop things, and the oil splashes up in my face, and the things are on they're on not high enough, so I turn them up, and they burn around the side of the pot, and I turn them back down, and that doesn't cook right, and this doesn't cook right, and by the end of it, I say, all right, I quit. You do it. And I'll see my mom in there. If I get there early for Thanksgiving, I'll see her, and she has just sweat dripping off of her, and she's going to the oven and taking stuff out and slamming stuff, and she's going to the potatoes, and she's doing the pie, and she's cutting them and spinning things around, and she's doing this, and she's closing everything. It's hard work. She's got powder all over her face, and she's I'm just kidding. It ain't like that. But it's hard work, and you can imagine this. You imagine this widow sitting there baking all this and making this meal and giving us water and saying, why am I even doing this for him? Doesn't he know what my family's going through? Doesn't he know what position I'm in? Doesn't he know what hurt I feel? You know what this woman did? She began to doubt God's will, but she fed someone else anyways. When she was hungry, or she needed food, she fed someone else with her own food. It's easy to give God your abundance of water, but it's another thing when He asks you for the rest of your bread. Is thy cruse of comfort failing? Rise and share it with another. And through all thy years of famine, it shall serve thee and thy brother. Is thy burden hard and heavy? Do thy steps drag wearily? Help to bear thy brother's burden. God will bear both it and thee. Galatians 6:1 verses 1 and 2 says, Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye that are spiritual. Paul knows that some people in Galatia aren't spiritual. He says, ye that are spiritual, restore such a one in the manner of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. You know, part of the job as a Christian from a New Testament church that you see started in Acts and on through, is that you're told to bear the burdens of the brethren. I talked about it a little this morning in Sunday school, but one of Satan's devices is to get you against the brethren. Get you start nitpicking at the brethren and saying, well, if I was them, I wouldn't do this, and I wouldn't raise my kids that way, and I wouldn't do this with my kids, and I wouldn't do that with my spouse, and I wouldn't do that with the class, and I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that. You know what you should do sometime whenever you get to a point where it's like that? Take that person's name and write down on a piece of paper at night whenever you're getting ready to pray to the Lord, and make excuses for them on that piece of paper. Say things like, Lord, they're in financial stress that I'm not. They're in health stress. They're under financial pressure. They're under health pressure that I'm not. They didn't have the upbringing that I had. They got saved later in life. They didn't get saved whenever I got saved. They didn't have the good mom and dad that I have. They didn't have the blood. You didn't give this to them. You didn't give that to them. Make up excuses for them. You know what you'll do by the end of it? You'll be in tears praying for that person, and you'll get over whatever you thought bad about them. Amen. Try it sometime. It'll help you. It's a good dose. It's a good dose. It helps you to put yourself in someone else's shoes, and instead of nitpicking at them, you can actually pray for them. The truth be told, you don't want to wear someone else's shoes. I know about you, but I have a hard enough time with my shoes. These things I got on right now, they make my feet ache. I've been taking them off all day and rubbing my feet and everything else. I have a hard enough time filling my own shoes, let alone somebody else's. And this woman, she fed somebody else. Another thing she did is what she didn't do in verses 10 through 16. She didn't really get bitter, but you see in verse 18 that she does. Look what she says in verse 17 through 18. It came to pass after these things that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, fell sick, and his sickness was so sore that there was no breath left in him. And she said unto Elijah, What have I to do with thee, O thou man of God? Art thou come unto me to call my sin to remembrance and to slay my son? Do you hear a little bit of bitterness in there?
Yeah.
She took it a notch up from verse 11. From verse 11, she says nothing. She goes to fetch it. From verse 12, she starts to questioning. She questions the Lord, and then she turns into bitterness at the Lord. I could see her. Now, I don't know about you, but she has a right to say what she did. A conviction of sin comes up. She asks the man of God. She accuses him, which happens often. She says, "You're just come to bring problems into my life," and she gets bitter at the Lord. You know, a servant of the Lord is not immune to bitterness. You know, bitterness destroys more people's lives than drugs do. Right. It's usually the bitterness that hits before the drugs. I've never seen someone real happy and content with their life start shooting up heroin. I've never seen someone real content and happy with their life start drinking alcohol. It usually starts with bitterness. And you know Christians aren't immune to bitterness. You know Jonah was underneath the gourd, and Jonah cared more for the gourd than he did the people that got right with the Lord. Yeah. Jonah's in the Bible. Jonah preached a great message. I've been trying to preach an 8-word message, and 30,000 people get right, including the animals. The animals start fasting. There's a few animals I know that need to get right, bless God, or they need to be put down. But I've tried to preach a message like that, and I never have been able to do it. Jonah could do it, though. He had the touch of God on him whenever he preached those words, and God used the words that he said. But you know Jonah was bitter the whole time he was doing it?
That's right.
You know there's a lot of bitter servants that are serving the Lord, but they're not happy doing it. There's a lot of Jonahs. You know the thing you notice about the book of Jonah is that he ends his book with a question mark. The only book in your Bible that ends with a question mark. I believe God put that in there for you and me. You make the ending to it. Each of us get a right. We're our own epistles to be read, open. I think Peter or Paul said it. We get to write the own ending to our stories, and we get to choose how it's going to end. I bet you Jonah got to choose how it ended, but he left that question mark in there for you and I. Elijah was underneath a juniper tree. He called fire down from heaven. He raised a boy from the dead. Fire comes down and consumes the sacrifice. He raises the widow's son. He prophesies that there won't be any rain, that there will be a drought, and he cuts 400 false prophets' heads off. I've still tried to claim that promise and said, God, if you could just cross dispensational barriers and make Christianity just for a little short time, Lord, or I'd be able to do that and not be a sin. But the Lord says, no, Aaron, I'm not doing it. You're supposed to turn the other cheek still. But he got to cut off 400 false prophets' heads. And then a chapter later, he's underneath the juniper tree and saying, God, if it be so, Lord, take my life from thee. I'm not as great as my fathers were. His problem was that he was looking at the generations before and trying to compare himself to them. Made him crazy. He couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle the pressure trying to live up to Charles Haddon Spurgeon. He couldn't handle the pressure trying to live up to the old saints of God. Catherine Booth, C.H. Spurgeon, Spurgeon's wife. He was looking at the people before him and said, God, I'm not having the results that they've had. I'm no greater than my fathers, or it's better that I just die. He became suicidal. You know, Hebrews 12:14 says, follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord. Looking diligently, that means keeping track of it. Lest any man fail of the grace of God. I'm not going to go through Hebrews, but he's not necessarily talking about your salvation. The grace of God is supposed to be in you. You can fail at it. It doesn't grow in you anymore. It stops. It's stunted. It doesn't continue to overwhelm. It doesn't continue to bubble up inside of rivers of living water. Out of their belly shall flow rivers of living water. He says, lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. You know, bitterness hurts more than just you. I heard someone say being bitter at somebody is like taking a glass of poison and you drinking it and being mad at the other person expecting them to die. Bitterness only hurts you. We went over this morning with talking about Satan, but in Hebrews or in James chapter 3 it says, if you have bitter envying and strife in your hearts. It didn't say if you strive out loud with somebody. It said bitter envying and strife in your hearts. He says, glory not and lie not against the truth. Now, this morning, I know some of you weren't in here. It didn't say out loud if you strive with somebody. It said if you strive with them in your heart. See, God got you. He got you and me. And we say, well, God, I never said anything. I didn't say anything to the person. He says, yeah, I know it's in your heart. He's got you. The Lord, the preacher gets up and preaches. But I tell you what, the Holy Spirit, he's got a sniper rifle. He comes down to those pews and he'll shoot you. I was just reading that thing the other day, studying and preparing that, and I read it, and I said, it says in your heart. It says not talking about out loud. It's talking about if you have strife in your heart. God's saying that's worldly, sensual, and devilish. He says, lie not against the truth. You know one cure for bitterness is being thankful and forgiving. 2 cures. I just wrote it down real quick. 2 cures for bitterness. You want it to be cured? Forgive and be thankful. Jesus Christ said in Mark chapter 11, He said, if you have aught against any, He said, when you stand praying, if you have aught against any, forgive. Lest your Father also, which is in heaven, shall forgive you of your trespasses. But if you forgive not others for their trespasses, neither will your Father, which is in heaven, forgive you for your trespasses. You know what God said? He said, if you want to pray to me, He said, make sure that you've forgiven everybody in your heart. Now, I'm not a believer in this. I know some people teach you. I don't believe you have to go up to somebody every single time and go, Brother Jeff, I just want to let you know, brother, I had some awful thoughts about you earlier this week. And I just wanted to give it to you. But I don't think you have to do that. I heard a woman one time, I want to tell a story, it's funny. I heard a woman one time, the preacher was preaching on a revival and getting right with people. And I'm not going to give you the pastor's name, but I'm not going to give you the story. Y'all might know the person. Anyway, there's some things, if it's in your heart, keep it in your heart. It's between you and the Lord. You don't have to give it out to everybody. Amen. Bitter, strife, and envying in your heart, forgive. And the second one is being thankful. You know, being thankful, you're commanded to do so. It's not an option. It says over in Philippians chapter 4, it says, and the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus our Lord. You know what comes before that? Prayer and thanksgiving. He says, in order for the peace of God, there's peace with God, there's peace of God. Peace with God is where you get saved. The peace of God is what rules in your heart, if you allow it to. He said, in order for that to happen, you have to be thankful. You know, one thing missing in America, one thing missing in the world is thankfulness. Black Friday is now Black Thursday, and it starts at 7 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning. Yeah. Now, if you go Black Friday shopping, you can go if you want to. That's between you and the Lord. But don't skip Thanksgiving to go Black Friday shopping. You're missing the whole point of Thanksgiving. The whole point of the holiday is to be thankful for what you have, that you're content with the things that you got. It's not to go buy more things to give to other people. Which personally, I believe some people do that. That way they can show people how much money they make throughout the year. And they just like shopping and buying. But anyway, that's just it between. But being thankful. You ever thank the Lord for pain? It's easy to thank the Lord for money, or money's coming in, you get a job or promotion, and your child's healthy and everything. You ever thank the Lord for the children that aren't healthy? You ever thank the Lord for your prodigal son or daughter? You ever said, Lord, that thing that I hated that you did to me, that thing, I don't like that my children went away from me. I don't like that my children are out in the world. I don't like that, God. I don't like what you put me through. I don't like cooking a meal for a prophet whenever I have no food left to give them. I don't like that you're putting me through this, God. You ever thanked Him for it? You ever thank Him for it because now that you've gone through that, you're able to empathize with another Christian who's going through it? You ever realize the things that God puts you through, He's putting you through it to make you more like His Son, Jesus Christ? Amen. You know the reason Jesus Christ was able to save the whole world is because He was beaten within an inch of His life. He was hung upon a cross. He was naked and ashamed. You ever think of the shame of the cross? You ever think of what it would be like to hang there nude in front of your mom, and father, your sisters and brothers, your disciples? The disciples watched Jesus walk on water. They watched Him calm the seas. They watched the power of God in His life. They watched Jesus Christ touch a man's eyes and he was healed. They watched Him bring out the dead, and He's hanging there ashamed. Yeah. You say, why did He do that? So He could help you and me. So He could save us. And it says the joy that was set before Him, He endured the cross, despising the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the Father. Jesus Christ, the reason He went through the things that He went through was because there were others that He was doing it for. And whenever you're going through a trial and a tribulation like this widow is going through, you're doing it for other people. God's putting you through it to make you more like His Son Jesus Christ so you can help somebody else. There's a preacher, and Brother Peacock has his name. There's a preacher, and he would preach, and he had great unction. He had people would always get saved whenever he would preach, and he was a great soul winner. And he had power upon him, and a preacher, as back in the old days, and I guess you could do this, but he wanted to know what the secret. He wanted to hear him pray. He wanted to hear the man pray, so he got the key to the room he was staying at. He was staying at a deacon's house there in the church, and he was allowed to go in, and I don't know why they allowed it to happen, but it's a true story. He went in underneath the bed and laid down and was going to listen to him pray that night. Not creepy, but whatever you got to do. And he said that old preacher walking in, he's a gray-headed preacher, maybe he was at middle age, and he said he walked in and he got ready for bed, and he knelt down there, he sat down on the bed, and he said, Lord, I love you. And I think he said, Lord, I love you, and I'm going to go to bed. Good night. He lay down in bed. And that guy, he was laying underneath there, he said, and he just went to sleep. He was going to wait till the morning was up. It was an off day. It was a Monday, the meeting. They didn't have anything going on, so he was going to wait till the guy went out to breakfast and, get up and leave. I guess time about it later, I don't know. But he said around 2 in the morning, he heard that man get up and the lights turn on real quick. And the man had a disease in his nerves. And it shoot a pain through his arms at night. And the only good sensation he could get was by rubbing his arms together like this. And he said that man for about an hour and a half during the night was going, this is so much better than sin. Mm-hmm. Thank you, God, this is so much better than sin. Amen. Thank you, God, this is so much better than sin. That's where his power came from. That's good. See, the man was thankful that God was bringing pain into his life because he remembered the old life. Yeah. And he said, I'd rather be in your will, going through pain and misery, than out of your will and have everything good. There's a girl, she was 12 years old, and Dr. David Gibbs, Dr. David Gibbs Jr., he's the head of the National Center for Life and Liberty, or Christian Legal Association, I forget which one it is, CLA. He tells a story. He was in this big meeting, it was a big church, 1,500 people or so, and he said they were doing prayer requests on Wednesday night, and this little girl asked, she said, I have a prayer report. She said, I want to thank the Lord for my nose. David Gibbs was saying, that's a weird thing to thank the Lord for, my nose. And he said he finally looked down, and he said he noticed that the girl that said it, she was 12 years old, she was in a wheelchair. And she was a paraplegic, she didn't have any arms or legs. And I guess the pastor ended up telling David Gibbs a story. He said, brother, we go soul winning every Saturday afternoon, and we all go to different parts of the town, and she likes to go to Lowe's. And she'll go to Lowe's and stand outside the store there at Lowe's in her wheelchair, or Walmart, different places like that. She likes to go to the stores. And she'll sit there, and whenever a person passes by, she'll say, Sir, could you grab something out of my bag for me? Can you grab a book out of my bag? And of course they're going to say yes, and they come over and they grab the book out. She goes, can you lay it down there on my table for me? And they lay it out on the table there on her wheelchair. And she said, can you open it up to the middle? And they'll open it up like that. And once they open it up, she goes, okay, hold on a second. And she goes, she witnesses to them. Amen. And she goes, I want to thank the Lord for a good nose. Amen. Puts me in a conviction. That's good. I get scared seeing a little elderly woman at the cashier saying, Lord, she's not going to take my track. She's not going to take my track. And that little girl said, I'm thankful for my nose. There's another story of a man, he's in a wheelchair, he's up in the front row and is getting on at the camp meeting, and people are running around the aisles and doing different things, and they're all going around. And I'm talking about bitterness. I'm talking about how to cure bitterness. It's being thankful. And they're all running around, and the man in the wheelchair, he would shake, and I guess he came out of his chair and jumped out. And the pastor or the preacher stood up and went to go get him. They told him to sit down, and the guy went up underneath the communion table. And he's curled up in a ball, and he looked like he was convulsing. And I guess the preacher went down while everybody else was running around. The preacher went down and acted like he was praying and knelt down there beside him. And he heard that guy, and that guy was saying, thank you, Lord, for my body. Thank you, Lord, that you put me in this wheelchair. Thank you, Lord, that I'm able to praise you. You ever thank the Lord that you're able to say amen? You ever thank the Lord that you're able to come to church? I go to that nursing home 2 times a month just to remind me where I could be. It's not all elderly people. It's a rehab center, so sometimes there's ladies in their 30s there. One woman was beaten with domestic violence. They don't even have her name up on her door because they're scared that her husband's going to come back in and find her. And she sits there and she's in a wheelchair and can't hardly move her right arm or her right leg. And thankfully she's been going through therapy. And she's able to get function back in it now, and she's slowly able to do this leg. And I guess she walked a couple times last month for the first time. She lost her 15-year-old daughter last fall to suicide. And I see that woman in there, and I go in and preach, and you see her go, amen, amen. And she raises up her good left hand and says, amen. Aren't you thankful you could go to church? Yeah. I was saying this earlier. I said, I got sinus drainage. And I was going to ask for a request prayer for my sinus, my allergies. And we went around the circle, and I heard that people got cancer, people got family members going to hell, people got diseases. And I'm thinking, Lord, my sinuses, I think I'll be all right. I think I'll bear this burden alone. And pray for it. I'll give you one more story. David Gibbs' mother, she was a Sunday school teacher. She did a lot there around the church, and she played the piano. And she one day was stricken. She lay down on the couch. She said she didn't feel too good. And when her David was about 11 years old, and she lay down on the couch, and she never got up from the couch. She had a nervous disease. I forget what it was. And I can't remember if it was polio or what, but she was bedridden the rest of her life. She couldn't get up, and it even caused breathing problems. It hurt her to breathe at times whenever she's getting older in years. And David Gibb tells a story of when they went to the nursing home the first time. They had her, at that time, it was back in the 50s, they didn't really know it was contagious. They had her in this, it was almost like an animal cage. It was a little patio. And the family had to stay back across the concrete slab, and they had a little gate there, and the family looked at her, and she was laying on a bed like this, looking. And David Gibbs said he remembered going there and seeing his mom like that. And he goes, Mom, can I read your faces? And he goes, he remembered looking, and he said he started to cry. And she goes, Davy, no. She goes, God does all things well. Yeah. David Gibbs said he used to go down to the top of the steps, and his mom stayed on the bottom of the floor. And he said that you could hear her breathing at night, and she'd struggle. She'd be in pain at times. And he said he could hear her breathing, and she'd be sitting in there in that wheelchair that was sliding back, and she'd be going, God, thank you, Lord, that I'm able to pray. Thank you, Lord, that I'm able to talk to you and say amen, Lord, and thank you that I'm able to praise you. She said, Lord, I pray for Davy, and she would go on praying for Davy. David Gibbs said, you know, you can be thankful if you want to be. Yeah. You know, I told those men in the program, I said, you don't have to go to Bible college. You don't have to be raised up in a Christian home. You don't have to know the Bible inside and out. It doesn't take brains to be thankful. It just takes somebody that's humble. It takes somebody that realized where God could have put them if He wanted to. You didn't have to be born in America. I didn't have to be born in America. You didn't have to be born to a good home. If you weren't born in a good home, I'm sorry for that. You don't have to have a good Bible-believing church. A lot of people don't. A lot of people want a pastor that preaches the Bible that can rightly divide, that preaches more than just we're saved, hallelujah, amen, go win souls. You don't have to have a wife with you or a husband with you. Not everybody does. You don't have to have children that maybe they're not serving the Lord, or maybe at least they're not locked up. I don't know. There's something you can be thankful for. And if you want to stay away from bitterness, if you say, God, I want to stay humble, I don't ever want bitterness to overtake me, I don't want to defile many people, you have to stay thankful. I believe that's one thing that kept this woman in it, and I believe she stayed faithful. What she didn't do in verses 10 through 16, she did in 18. She became bitter. And the last thing I'll say is this: don't ever say, I'll never get bitter at God and leave church. Right. Say, by the grace of God, I'll never get bitter and leave church. By the grace of God. I'll end on a note going out. The last thing I'll say about this woman is something that I love more than anything. It's something that attracted me to get right with the Lord. Something that spoke to my heart was whenever I seen an elder saint that was like this. The woman was faithful. She stayed put where she was. You know, there's something about an old saint of God that just stays faithful. They keep going to church, they keep reading the Bible, they keep doing whatever they've been doing for the past 35, 40, 50 years. There's something about it. It doesn't have to be a preacher, it doesn't have to be a pastor, just a Christian that does that. There's something about them. They have a glow about them that you can't buy. And you can't put on the front, you can't put on the show. There's just something about that person that they glow. And anyone with any spiritual perception can see it. But this lady, this widow Zarephath, she didn't leave in her circumstances. She didn't leave whenever things got rough. She didn't leave whenever the food was running out, whenever things weren't going good, whenever her family wasn't with her. She stayed put. She didn't leave because of her situation or the trial she faced. There's a book called 5 Years to Freedom. The book's it's an autobiography of a man named Lieutenant James Nicholas Rowe, and I'll close with this illustration. He was a Special Forces Green Beret. He was a POW of South Vietnam in 1963. The Viet Cong took him and captured him, and he was in their camp for 5 years, and he wrote a biography. The camp was in the heat of the jungle. And it was so thick in the jungle that they didn't make a fence around it. He escaped 3 times, and every time he came back around to the camp. He couldn't find his way out. That's how thick the jungle was. He literally left the camp and came back and said, "Oh, sorry, I was trying to use the bathroom and got lost," and they just took him back. Another 2 times they beat him. But he, for 5 years there, he had dysentery on his legs. He had black mold growing on him. They feed him sometimes, and it would be half a cup of rock salt and half a cup of dried up rice. And they'd feed that to him. And they asked him when they first got in, they wanted him to sign a paper. And on that paper is written out, it says, "My name is Lieutenant James Nicholas Rowe of the Green Beret, the U.S. Special Forces, and I'm fighting in a criminal warfare. And the United States has staged a criminal act upon the South Vietnam, and it's supposed to say all these things about America." And he said, "I ain't signing it." He said, "I'm not signing that." They were wanting to say to go against everything that the war was for and against America, and he said, "I'm not going to sign it." And because they said, "If you just sign it, we'll let you go," and he said, "No, I'm not going to sign it." He was a criminal. A college student from the United States of America, they couldn't get any information out of him. A college student from America sent over. They found out that he was captured there. And if you know anything about that war, colleges were rallying against it. And they sent his MOS over there to the people, the South Viet Cong. And they ended up, he walked into the office one day of the ones that were kept keeping him prisoner, and they had his whole MOS, his military occupational status. They knew everything about him. But some stupid college students sent him all the information. To psychologically depress him, they would play the radio of rallies against the war from American colleges. That's what they would do to make him depressed. He'd hear what was going on, the people talking negative about the war. He'd hear his own countrymen and his own people calling them baby killers and everything else, and they'd play that. And they'd say, "You really think that your country's coming for you? You really think they're going to come get you out?" And they'd do those things to him. And he had 3 soldiers there with him. He had 5 altogether. 2 of them died, and then the other 3, they were there for days in and days out, and he talked about things that they would have to do to encourage one another. One of them would start getting depression or anxiety or something, and they'd have to talk to them and remind them of baseball games over here in America, or their girlfriends, or their wives, or their children, and try and encourage them. And he wouldn't sign the paper, neither would they. And a couple of years go by, and one day he goes into the office, and there sits the 3 men at a table, and in front of them are 3 papers. And they all have their heads down where he walks in. They all signed the papers. But they all swore they wouldn't sign. It says America was waging a criminal war against the Viet Cong. They all signed the papers. And they all got out. His captors let him go. He let all 3 of them go. And they said, "You're staying with us. You won't sign the papers, you're staying with us." They let all of them go. So he had been forsaken by his country and his fellow soldiers. And long story short, the U.S. comes and starts bombing them. So they start getting out and they have to run. So his captives take him and they got him in chains, and he's running through the grass and different things and through the jungle. And he gets to this big field with elephant grass. Elephant grass is big above you. It's real tall. And he starts lagging behind, and his guard that's guarding him lags behind with him, and the others go on. They try and split up because the airplanes, the helicopters over top of them shooting down through the grass. And he said he waits until that guard got a few steps in front of him, and he picked up a log, and then, in the name of Jesus. Knocked him out. And he knocked that guard out. Whenever that guard was knocked out, he said he took that club and a machete, he started cutting down the grass around him and clearing out a spot where the helicopter could see him, and he started waving a white flag. And this was a story that the radio pilots told later. They said they were swooping around. They said, "We got one." And they said, "Swing it around again, we'll take him out." They thought it was South Viet Cong. So they were going just for fun. Not all soldiers are good on them. Just for fun, they were going to shoot this guy holding up white flags. And they went in, when they had him in his cross sights, and the pilot said, "I was getting ready to pull the trigger," and the general from above, there's a general swooping around in the helicopter above all the other ones who oversaw the raid going on. He said, "Hold on, take him prisoner." So they pull it back out, they swing it around, they come down, and they get him, Lieutenant James Nicholas Rowe, they take him and they throw him into the helicopter. And he said this. He said once he felt himself lifted off the ground, he knew he was all right. He said once he felt himself lifted off the ground, he knew he was all right. They said, "What's your name?" And he said, "I'm Lieutenant James Nicholas Rowe." And they got on the radio and they radioed it in, and they said, "What'd you say your name is?" He said, "I'm Lieutenant James Nicholas Rowe, U.S. Army Special Forces." And they said, "No, you're not." What? He said, "What's your name?" And he goes, "I'm Lieutenant James Nicholas Rowe, U.S. Special Forces." They said, "No, you're not." They said, "What's your name?" And he goes, he said, "I'm Lieutenant James Nicholas Rowe, U.S. Army Special Forces." And they said, "No, you're General James Nicholas Rowe, U.S. Army Special Forces." See, while he had been away in a far country, in a strange land, he was promoted twice and didn't know it. He was promoted. While he was doing right, by what his military code of conduct told him to do, which was the only thing he said he had to go off of, he was promoted. The general back home promoted him twice. He didn't know it, though. He said after he felt his feet get up off the ground, he knew it was all right. One day our feet are going to get up off the ground.
Amen.
And we're going to be feeling all right. All right, all right. I heard an old preacher say this. He said, "You realize when that trump sounds?" He said, "You realize when it sounds like we could be here in church?" And he said, "You just go like this. We're here." Like how we get. But we don't know. There might be a split second or two where before we go up. You might wait till the whole sound's done. It might be a 3 or 4 second horn. And for 3 or 4 seconds, we go like that. Like that. And you get that. You ever get a feeling? I don't know if you remember riding roller coasters. I don't know if some of you still ride roller coasters, but remember that drop you get, or maybe you get in a car accident and all that adrenaline pumps, and you feel your stomach out from under you. You imagine what it's going to be like when you're getting ready to travel through space. Your body's changing into an eternal body. It's getting ready to go step on gold. It's going to look like a sea of glass out in front of you. You imagine what it's going to be like. He said he felt all right. He said he felt safe once he was lifted off the ground. He's promoted twice while being faithful. He said there were a group of soldiers waiting on his arrival. There's a group of them waiting on the other side for his arrival, waiting on him to come home. He gave him a fresh uniform with pins for a major and prisoner of war and Green Beret Special Forces. So he got a new uniform. Because of the work he was doing in a strange country, in a place where he was going through a lot of pain, a lot of misery, he got rewarded. He got a new robe. He got new attire. He got some pins on him. And there were others waiting on him to the other side. This says to be absent with the Lord, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. I believe this, and I could be wrong. I've never passed, and God's never given me dying grace because I haven't died yet. But I assume if a Christian is living by faith throughout their life and they go on living for God, that whenever they go to take their last breaths, I believe it's just a crossing over. I believe God shows you. I remember my grandma the day that she went on to be with the Lord. She took those few last breaths. She had that ventilator hooked up, and we were all in there. And you just seen her go. You're going to somebody. It wasn't a thing where she was saying she wasn't doing this. She wasn't looking for him. She wasn't trying to reach out and find him. She was going after him. And I can tell you story after story of people saying, "Look, they're over there. Look, there she is." There's people waiting on us. We're just pilgrims right now. We're just strangers in a far country. Yeah. He ate a huge meal whenever he got back. Lobster. Praise God. God says it's clean, amen. Catfish. Amen. But he did. He said he ate a big meal. We're going to eat a big meal one day. Marriage supper of the Lamb. He said they started taking vitals out of the doctor's office, and they came up to him. And while they were taking all the vitals, they came up to him and said, "General Rowe, we need you to sign these papers." He said, "You're going to stand before court, and yet they have to investigate whether or not you gave up any information while you're over there." He said, "I got to sign these papers." He said, "I'm not signing them." And they said, "You got to sign them. It's a formality." He said, "I did nothing wrong." He said, "I'm not going to sign these papers. I just would put 5 years in a prison, in a war camp, because I wouldn't sign papers. I'm not signing these for you." He said, "I didn't sign them for them. I'm not signing them for you." And they go, "Well, you're going to sign them, or else you're going to be in prison." And he said, "Well, he considered going to prison for it." He said, "It'd be better than where I was living." Anyways, he signs the papers, and he goes and stands before the judge, state marshal or whoever it was, and they review his case. They see if he's going to give up any information. And they said, "James Nicholas Rowe, all charges are dropped. Innocent." You know, one day I'm going to stand before God, and he's going to say, "Aaron Michael Cowgill, all charges dropped. Amen. Innocent."
Amen.
He's going to put that robe on me. Yeah. He's going to put that robe on you. And you say, "What do you have to do, Aaron?" You just got to live in a strange land for a little while. Mm-hmm. You just got to keep doing what's right. He said all he had to obey was his military code of conduct, his written military code of conduct. I got one of them too. Something to obey. God was going to use this woman, this widow's woman. He was going to use her skills to make food to sustain Elijah. He was going to use her hardships to bless her with. Her starving became into lasting food. Her son's death became into life, became into resurrection. And 2 miracles that he would record in his eternal word are still being used today to help others. But that would have never have happened if she had left where God had her. God has you somewhere, stay put. Don't quit. Finish the fight. Don't doubt God. Never doubt in the dark what God's shown you in the light. Watch out and guard for bitterness and stay put. Finish your fight. Finish your course with joy. Amen. Let's all stand and we'll bow in a word of prayer. And if the song leader would like to come, you can come, sister, and or Jeff, you can lead us in a song. And if you'd like to spend any time with the Lord, you can spend time with the Lord. And